Leading off, it's his second baseman from the Arizona Diamondbacks, Ketel Marte.
Welcome back to your Valley Sports Plug Arizona Diamondbacks recap for July 8th through July 21st, 2024. I'm Chris Patrick with Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman. We're here to break it all down for the Valley. So let's go. In the last 2 weeks, the Arizona Diamondbacks have gone 6-4 over 3 series. We're now past the All-Star break, approaching the trade deadline, and the D-backs hold a record of 51-49 on the season. We start this recap at home, hosting the Atlanta Braves for a 4-game series. And the Braves currently hold the second spot in their division and the top spot in the National League wildcard race. The Snakes struggled in the first 2 games of this series, which included another Paul Sewald blown save in Game 1. However, the D-backs and Sewald were able to bounce back to split the series, winning Games 3 and 4 by slim margins. And important to mention that Paul Sewald was able to record his 12th and 13th save of the season, respectively. Staying at home, the Snakes look to carry that momentum into their next series with the Toronto Blue Jays. The Diamondbacks had an opportunity to get the elusive series sweep after winning the first 2 games in this one. However, an uncharacteristic outing from Zach Gallen in Game 3 saw him give up 6 runs in the 4th inning, which was capped off by a Kevin Kiermaier grand slam that put the Birds up 7-0. But in a wild turn of events, the Snakes bit back and in the bottom of the 5th scored 7 runs of their own to tie the game, in which Ketel Marte answered with a grand slam of his own to get the rally started. Ultimately, the final blow came in the top of the 7th when Kevin Ginkel gave up a solo home run to none other than Vladimir Guerrero Jr. himself. And the final score of Game 3 was 8-7 Blue Jays. With some time to cool off, Ketel Marte and Torey Lovullo took a trip to Arlington, Texas for the MLB All-Star Game and break. The Dodgers' Teoscar Hernandez beat Royals' Bobby Witt Jr. in the T-Mobile Home Run Derby in an electric final that went down to the wire. In the All-Star Game itself, the D-backs' Ketel Marte saw 3 at-bats, a hit, and a run scored. But ultimately, the American League All-Stars bested the National League, the final score 5-3. But at least this game no longer has playoff implications, am I right? And after the break, the D-backs took a trip to Chicago and historic Wrigley Field for a 3-game matchup with the Cubs. Similar to the last series before the break, the D-backs started by winning the first 2 games in this one, including a bounce-back performance by Zach Gallen, if you can call it that. He only pitched 5 innings in Game 2, but didn't give up a single run despite walking 6 through 102 pitches thrown and 4 strikeouts. The bullpen held the line, and Paul Sewald got his 15th save of the season in that one. But despite Michael Benjamin's plea for a series sweep, the Snakes could not deliver, dropping Game 3 2-1 in embarrassing fashion, a walk-off walk in extra innings, and you hate to see it. But Mike, we got to know what you think and what you've been seeing from the Arizona Diamondbacks in the last 2 weeks.
Gentlemen, despite the tough finish in Wrigley, the boys have been hot. You know this, man. They've won 12 of the last 18 games. They've won or split 7 straight series going back to June. I'd still love to see a sweep, obviously. But let's give out some flowers first. And I got to start with Paul Sewald. Yes, he did pull a Big Sean after the Braves' blown save with 4 straight saves. So he's back in rhythm. Brandon Pfaadt has been a stud. 6 innings, 3 hits, and a shutout win over the Braves. 7 innings, 1 hit in a tough loss to the Cubs. Obviously, we talked about it. But then Ryan Nelson as well, absolutely solid in his last 2. 7 innings versus the Jays and 1-run ball in Chicago. But my final flowers have to go to this team as a whole. The Diamondbacks series win in Chicago literally made the Cubs organization come out and say that this is not their year and they will be sellers. So we literally spanked them into the future. I love that more than anything. But man, it's just been awesome to see how they squeak out wins right now, finding ways to finish late, right? 2 runs in the 8th in their first win over the Braves. Perdomo's sac fly in the 9th to walk off the Blue Jays. And also they've been holding on to some early slight leads with some solid back-end pitching, right? As they seem to be gearing up for a push for the playoffs and hope to regain last season's form in the pen. Speaking of that, you already said it, trade deadline July 30th. The recent hot streak has removed our uncertainty, and they will look to be buyers. What are we looking for? They're saying a left-handed reliever should be our focus, a power bat. I mean, Mike Hazen even said that he's keeping an eye out for another starting pitcher if there is long-term control. And that would be a beautiful thing. And it would just be the cherry on top because it's just a few more weeks before Merrill and Montgomery return, as well as the debut of Eduardo Rodriguez. We've been waiting for this day in Tallman. I can't wait to see that champagne bottle popped, baby. But what do you got for these past 2 weeks, man?
All right, fellas. I was watching the game yesterday, and I could taste it. I could taste the sweep. The last time we had a sweep was 2.5 months ago. It goes all the way back to May 9th. That is just crazy to think. And I got a bone to pick with Lovello. Why isn't Paul Sewald out in the bottom of the 9th of that game? You're 3 outs away from stealing a win right there in a 1-0 game. How is he not out there? Yeah, he went out there 3 nights in a row, or he would have gone out 3 nights in a row, but Justin Martinez also pitched 3 nights in a row. I mean, that's got to be a must-win scenario. These games, this wild card race is so tight. We got to get every single win we can possibly get. But another thing I'm concerned about, Carroll's usage, right? So Saturday against the Blue Jays, the guy has his best game of the season. He hits 2 home runs. And then Sunday, the game finale against the Blue Jays, Carroll's on the bench. This past weekend, Saturday, Carroll hits a home run. And then what happened yesterday in Sunday's game, Carroll's on the bench, right? So I get it. He's not doing good against left-handed pitchers, but we're at that point in the season where you can't protect this kid's confidence anymore. He's got to be out there. He's got to be playing every single day. I mean, we pay him over $100 million. He's not a platoon player. He's not somebody that's just by design on the bench based off the pitching matchup. So I'm a little concerned about that. Positive note. Let's be positive. Mike, as you mentioned, this team is 100% going to be a buyer at the deadline. And that's exciting. 2 years in a row, we're going to make some purchases at the trade deadline. We're feeling good about third base finally. Basically talked about that the entire season last year. We got to add some relievers to that bullpen. And man, I'm feeling really good about the young pitchers right now. I mean, Brandon Pfaadt, he's pitching like this team's ace right now. Nelson, he's been such a surprise. And with that pitching rotation only getting healthier, I mean, it's hard not to feel really good about this team. And having a good start out of the gates of that All-Star break. You guys know what we did last year out of the All-Star break? We went 5-20. 5-20. We had some room last year, but this year we do not. So every game counts, and we need to play with a sense of urgency because, like I mentioned, that tight wild card race, we can't afford to lose games in the bottom of the 9th. We can't. But again, we're getting healthy. Mike, you already mentioned the guys we have coming back, and I'm still feeling really high on this baseball team.
And with good reason, Tallman. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't have very much here that you guys haven't already covered. I will triple down with what you guys have said. We absolutely have to be buyers. It's clear we desperately need some help in the bullpen and another reliable arm that we can have come in to help close out games, especially when our starters are only able to go 5-6 innings. That still leaves a lot on the table to be desired. And I know we've literally been saying it all season, but if we can get our starting pitchers back and they perform like we think that they can, then we'll have a lethal pitching rotation, guys. And that's just the truth. Not to mention if what you're saying is true and we can add another starter with some security. That's crazy to think about, and we'll have to see what happens. Just about a week and a half away from the trade deadline. But I think there's a good chance that we can put some work in the next 2 weeks, working towards securing that wild card seed. Because as we've said, guys, there's no way we're catching the Dodgers. That is off the table as far as I'm concerned. Our path to the playoffs is through the wild card. And we're going to face 2 wild card contenders in the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Washington Nationals coming up in the next 2 weeks. Guys, I just really like what I'm seeing with this team. We're getting hot at the right time. If they can carry that momentum here past the All-Star break, started off good against the Cubs, only winning 2 of 3, but hey, that's still a series win. If we can continue to stack series wins, that's going to bode well in our favor, and I'll be okay. Mike, I'll be okay if we don't get that series sweep as long as we keep winning the series, but you know we're going to keep you up to date. Mike, what do we have going on in the next 2 weeks for the Arizona Diamondbacks?
Fellas, like you said, we got some great tests to see where this team continues to move towards, as well as help us see what other moves might happen in the next week as the Diamondbacks head to Kansas City Then it's back home for 2 series against NL wildcard hopefuls as the Pittsburgh Pirates and Washington Nationals head to Phoenix. We finish off the next 2 weeks in Pittsburgh, looking to leapfrog that 3-way tie for that final wild card spot. Excited, fellas. Let's keep it rolling.
Let's go. And guys, we're going to keep bringing you a Diamondbacks recap every 2 weeks throughout the season. So make sure you like and subscribe for more Arizona Diamondbacks and Valley Sports action. For Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.